Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, September the 12th, 2013. A few little housekeeping items we'd like to go over before we start the meeting. This meeting is being televised on the Henry County TV Channel 14 and will be rebroadcast each Thursday at 7:30 p.m. A video of the meeting is also available on demand on the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off your cell phones. Just check to make sure they're on silent. If you wish to speak, please fill out the public hearing speaker card, and we will allot 10 minutes for those in favor of a case, and we also will allot 10 minutes for those in opposition of a case. And I want to make sure that everyone understands that, for example, if 10 people wish to speak, that's a 10-minute slot for all 10 people, so not 10 minutes each person. So, and I would like for you to address the board when you're speaking, and we will probably have, questions for the applicant. So, given that, we'd like to go ahead with our invocation and pledge that's going to be given by DeLander Nelson. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your wonderful blessings. We thank you for this evening. We thank you for the citizens that's gathered here with us today. We ask that our decisions be guided by your doings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion approved.
Mr. Tony made a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. Babbitt seconded. And is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Okay. None opposed. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Head made a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Excuse me. Mr. Richard, do you have a second? Yes, ma'am.
The July minutes are not included in your books, so you all will just be making a motion to approve the May minutes.
The May minutes. That was in the book. So I was going to say there were minutes in the book. So we're approving the May minutes. Do I need to make another motion for that? Or that's just our discussion? Okay. So the discussion is they're the May minutes that we're approving. Everyone understand that? All right. Any other questions or comments about the May minutes? Okay. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. None opposed. It's motion carried. Okay. Are there any staff comments?
No, ma'am.
We're now going to move on to the agenda items. So if we can call the first case, please.
VR 1309, James Kim of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 35 Mill Road in land lot 111 of the 6th District. The request is to reduce the front yard setback for an accessory structure and to allow an accessory structure in the front yard in the C3 zoning district. The property is located in District 2, and Jeremy Gilbert is representing planning staff.
Good evening, Jeremy.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. The request that is before you is a variance for property located at 35 Mill Road. We heard this request at our previous meeting in July. The applicant is requesting to allow an accessory structure to be located in the front yard setback and also would like to reduce the front yard setback for an accessory structure. The property in question is a little unique in the fact that the front yard setback is actually the rear of the building. They're asking to build this, to allow this accessory structure in the rear yard, which is actually behind the building. So it would appear to be in the rear yard, but is actually in the front yard based on the plat that was recorded as part of the Sam's Club development. The applicant is asking to reduce the setback for the accessory structure from 70 feet to 12 feet. At our previous meeting, where the Zoning Advisory Board tabled this request July 18th to allow Henry County Department of Transportation and Planning staff to address some issues that needed to be resolved. and since that time, staff has met, and also the Board of Commissioners at their September 3rd, 2013 Board of Commissioners meeting did approve to abandon a portion of right-of-way that is along Mill Road in front of this location. And I will defer any questions that the board has to our DOT department that is here tonight to allow for an existing retaining wall to be removed out of the county right-of-way. Staff did recommend approval of this variance with no conditions, but does have one change to the resolution that is in your book. And staff would like to add that it be it further resolved that the applicant shall resolve the county property encroachment issues with the Henry County Department of Transportation prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And that would be added to the end of the resolution after the now therefore it be resolved. I'll answer any questions that the board may have on this item.
Okay, do any board members have any questions for the staff regarding this case?
Have the right-of-way issues been taken care of at this time?
At this point, the right-of-way has been abandoned as right-of-way. It is still, at this present time, county property. The Department of Transportation, in conversation with them, is prepared to go to the Board of Commissioners to sell that off as surplus. And in conversations with them, it's according to state law, they would have to offer it to the adjacent property owner, which would be the applicant at this time. So right now, it's still going through the process for the acquisition of the right-of-way, but the right-of-way has been abandoned. At this point, it is just now county property.
Do you have a sketch of the right-of-way that would be that's in question? Do you have that?
The area that's illustrated here as Tract B, it's the speckled piece of property there, is the portion of right-of-way that is that has been abandoned, that is now just county property.
Mr. Tony, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't have another question.
Anyone else have any questions for staff? At this time, I'd like the applicant to please come forward and please state your name and address for the record.
Do you turn this on for him? It's James Kim at 35 Mill Road, McDonough, Georgia, 30253. So, working at this Yuki Japanese restaurant.
Okay. Do you have any further comments that you would like to add to staff's comments?
Actually, it wasn't happen like this, but they have county liability-wise problems. As I tried to, decide to purchase a piece of land, what they have survey already. I just recast it, and then when I purchase it, it's going to be more comfortable between county and Yuki Japanese restaurant. So that's why I decided to purchase with it. So it's going to be more better for all audience, and then county and my property owner too. So.
Okay. Do the board members have any questions for the applicant?
Now, you do have the intentions of purchasing this right away if the county offers it, if the county abandons this property, or are you planning to purchase this part of the right of way?
Yes, sir. I got all the information from DOT already. And then I have a certain amount, what they have like appraisal too. So I just decided to purchase it. Sooner the better to try to open it up. But actually, it's other extra things is planning on, and then going on every night is a viewing. I try to show you one thing about already operated with that one. It's going to be maybe 5 minutes.
Is it upside down? I think we need to turn it around. It's kind of upside down. It's like water's running. There we go.
Yeah, we went out to the site, and it's an impressive, what you've done with that. If we get to move forward from here, but there were some questions that came about the right-of-way issues, and we just want to make sure that the county be protected, as far as the right-of-way issues there.
Do any of the board members have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Yeah, that's already you've seen like this, and then try to make it a beautiful environment to serving to the customers, and then even Henry County residents. And even if I can purchase it, it's not going to be any hassles between county and Yuki. So I'm ready to go anytime. So when you prove it, I'm going to process it right next day. So
Okay.
try to.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you very much for giving
Okay.
opportunity.
All right, you may be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to open up the floor for anyone who wants to speak in favor of this case. I will allow 10 minutes for any of those speaking in favor of this case. Just when they come up, you can just wait till they come up. Okay. I don't see anyone coming up to speak in favor. Is there anyone speaking in opposition of this case? Okay, I need to ask the applicant to please come back to the podium. Are there any further questions that the board would like to ask the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
We need to call the case.
DR 1309, James Kim of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development regulations for property located at 35 Mill Road in Land Lot 111 of the 6th District. The request is to reduce the front yard setback for an accessory structure and to allow an accessory structure in the front yard in the C3 zoning district. The property is located in District 2.
I make a recommendation that we approve the request based on the staff's recommendation.
Mr. Tony's made a motion.
I second.
Mr. DeLander has, Mr. Nelson has made a second. Excuse me. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. None opposed. Motion carried. Thank you. We call the next case, please.
Conditional use, CU 1307, William Nadel of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 1669 Bennett Drive, Land Lot 209 of the 6th District. The request is for a non-home occupation personal care home. The property is located in District 2, and Jeremy Gilbert is representing planning staff.
Good evening again, Chairman and board members. The request that is before you is a conditional use for a non-home occupation personal care home to be located at 1669 Bennett Drive in McDonough, Georgia. The applicant is requesting to utilize the rental property as a personal care home, providing 24-hour supervision and the care for no more than 4 disabled adults. The existing 2,827 square foot single-family home has 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The lot's approximately a half acre and is located within the established Simpsons Mill Plantation subdivision. The proposed use does not meet the requirements for a home occupation care home, as the owner does not reside at this location, therefore has triggered the need for this conditional use. The Unified Land Development Code in Section 4.0319 does allow for the approval of a conditional use for a non-home occupation of more than 3 clients in any residential zoning district. The applicant concedes that her certified and licensed staff will provide 24-hour care for the applicants, for the clients that are there on rotating shifts. As defined by the Unified Land Development Code, a personal care services include but are not limited to individual assistance with or supervision of self-administered medication, and essential activities of daily living such as eating, bathing, grooming, dressing, and toiletry. A care home cannot provide nursing or other medical or nursing care. Planning staff has reviewed the application, and in reviewing it, staff did recommend approval. However, during all of this time, staff did receive a letter from the Atlanta Legal Aid Society that was dated April 9th, 2013, regarding reasonable accommodations for one of the residents living at the aforementioned address. Also, as a result of that letter, our county attorney has drafted a memo that was provided to the board tonight regarding reasonable accommodations. And also I'd like to enter into the record that we did receive a letter from the Simpsons Mill Homeowners Association, them speaking in opposition to this request. It is my understanding that representatives from that homeowners association is here tonight and will be speaking, but did want to enter into the record that that was presented to the Planning and Zoning Department. In staff's recommendation, staff did recommend approval of the request for reasonable accommodations in a personal care home, but does have one change to the proposed conditions that are in your book. Condition number 3, staff is requesting to amend that condition to state there should be no more than one resident permitted as requested by the Atlanta Legal Aid Society in their letter dated April 9th, 2013. Said letter shall be made part of the public record. Staff will address and answer any questions that the board has.
Okay, are there any questions from the board members for the staff at this time? Mr. Nelson?
No, at this time.
Okay. I would like to ask the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, County and Board. My name is Felicia Miller, and this is Kelvin Miller. We live at 537 Coldwater Lane, McDonough.
Okay. Would you like to add anything regarding the staff's comments for this board?
I would like to provide you guys with this request.
Okay. Yeah, we just have to give it to him. Am I supposed to read that?
Ms. Miller needs to read that request into the record.
Okay. Is it, this is a copy?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Dear Herring County, on behalf of the two individuals that are not Keith McGarity, I'm requesting that they be allowed to continue to live at 1669 Bennett Drive. These two individuals are intellectual as well as physically disabled and require the same level of care as Keith. I request this as a reasonable accommodations on their behalf. Sincerely, Felicia Miller.
Okay. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
Just that these individuals do require, the support of someone 24/7.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Tony?
Are you living on the site at this particular,
No, sir.
you're not living there?
No, sir.
In order to give 24-hour care, what would you do if your employees didn't show up or something like that? How do you handle the 24-hour care?
I would have to come in, or we would have another staff member. We have a rotating shift, and we have staff that are listed as needed that would come in to take care of the individuals.
How many people do you have for staff?
We have about seven
People that are on site, or just rotating, or how?
Rotating.
That's all I have for right now.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Head?
Is this the only resident that you have for this type of care?
No, sir. I have two other homes that are located in Bibb County that provide the same service for 4 individuals, set up the same way with staff rotation.
Do you presently have 2 occupants that's needing assistance, or how many occupants do you have?
I have 3, and all 3 need assistance.
Okay. Do they all fall up under the ADA requirement?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Risher?
So if I understand you correctly, you're changing your request from 4 individuals needing care to 3.
That's what is currently 3 residents.
Yes,
Yes, 3 individuals that reside.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those to speak in favor of the case. And when you come up, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Charles Talley Wells. I'm with the Atlanta Legal Aid Society, and my address is 246 Sycamore Drive at Decatur, Georgia, 30030. Sorry about that. I am here on behalf of Keith McGarity, but Mr. McGarity, in his original reasonable accommodation request, specifically asked that he be able to continue to live with the other 2 individuals with disabilities. And our request from the beginning has been for Keith asking to be able to continue to live with all 3. Keith is nonverbal. He has a very significant physical disability. He is from a very long time Henry County family that goes back generations and generations in this county. He lives very close to his father, who is in his 80s, I believe. Yes, he'll speak for a second. But he really enjoys and is doing incredibly well being able to be so close to his family. For Keith, because of his disability, he's just not able to live in the community without the accommodations that we're requesting. The county has 2 different types of personal care homes, home occupation and occupation. Those are really not up to Keith. Keith is the person that we're seeking the reasonable accommodation request for, and he wants to continue to live in his home that he's been living in. And whether or not the owner lives there, which she used to do and doesn't now, or doesn't live there, is, in our opinion, not enough of an unreasonable thing that he should not be given an accommodation. And our request is under the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Fair Housing Act. And the reasonable accommodation, we're all familiar with it, but until I got into this area of law, I sort of didn't really totally get it. But basically, the reasonable accommodation is that a person with a disability is often sort of left out and not able to do certain things that other people are able to do, unless they get either some sort of accommodation or unless whatever discrimination is causing that is ceased. And so the United States Congress and the first President Bush passed the law that essentially said that where it is reasonable, we should accommodate people with disabilities so they can live just like everybody else. And so for the non-home occupation, the way that we read the code, and it is ambiguous, but the way we read the code, and I think it's the right way, frankly, when you really look at it on non-home occupation, it says that you don't have to have a conditional use permit if you're in an RA area, but if you're in any of the other residentials, you can, as long as there's a conditional use permit. Our position is that that's sort of discrimination. I mean, the fact that you would say that a person can live in an agricultural area in no other place anytime they want, but in order to live in this other area, when the only way you can live there is to have the accommodations of having a personal care home. It should be the same in each of these areas. But our other part of our argument is that this house, it's not even clear that you need a personal care home permit. They live as a family unit the way that the county defines family, that they live as a single housekeeping unit. And they have people come in, and that's the accommodation. They have to have people assist them because they need help with cooking and cleaning and getting around. But they are not causing any sort of disruption in the neighborhood. You cannot, when you see this house, see anything different about this house than any other house in the neighborhood. This is what they need in terms of, and it's reasonable to, when you have a really significant disability, that you have people come in and help you. And that's all that they need. And the finances, unfortunately, because, the state does not provide a lot of assistance for people with disabilities. It certainly provides a fair amount, but the way it really sort of has turned out working for most people with disabilities, and not all, is that they live with other folks with disabilities, so that, to sort of make ends meet, and that's what happens here, and that's why Keith needs the other folks. It simply would not work for him not to be able to sort of live in this sort of family environment with the other folks with disabilities. We think 3 is a reasonable number because it doesn't change the nature of this community. And so our request is that you approve the conditional use permit, but you leave it the way that we understood it was until we got here tonight. And the recommendation had been for 3 people. That's what we were prepared for. We understand that it was changed for 1 person, which is why Felicia has asked for the reasonable accommodation request on behalf of the other 2 people. Those folks have not been able to retain me because of their sort of own abilities, but the reality is that there's a good chance they'll become my clients if this, if it's just approved for Keith and not for them, because all 3 of them really want to continue to live there and are asking for that accommodation. There has been also some concerns about, well, if she doesn't live there, what about the safety? What about if somebody doesn't show up? Those are very legitimate questions. I can tell you, because I helped a nonprofit with the applications with the state, that there are very strict, and if you'll come on up, Alvin, there are very strict policy and procedure requirements, oversight, visits. It is a very constant process for people with developmental disabilities. Now, you may have experience with folks with mental illness and other disabilities where the process, there is just not that oversight that there is with the developmental disability community, but there is very strict oversight and very strict penalties if somebody doesn't show up or if there aren't folks there. So I'd like to allow, since there's only 3 minutes left, for Alvin, who has been in this community for such a long time, just to tell you why he is asking for this on behalf of his son and why he's asked me to be Keith's attorney.
Thank you. I'm John Alvin McGarity, Keith's father. We kept him home until he's...
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Could you state your address for the record, please?
My address is 27 Elm Street, Hampton.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. As I was saying, we kept him home as long as we could. My wife was a petite person, and he got too big for her to handle, so to speak. Keith's been in 5 different locations, and right now he's in the best location since he left home. And the federal and state government for several years the goal has been to get the disabled people out in the community so they could live as much normal life as possible. And then we run into these rules and regulations imposed by Henry County that seem to be against several laws, and I think things need to change. The McGarity family has been a part of Henry County for eons, and I know we recently had a situation where homeowners objected to flying the American flag. And of course, that was resolved in favor of this 90-year-old man who's been on the news. But I don't know. We need to get back to the basics, and we need to look out for people. Keith's real happy where he is. They're well staffed. Any concern I've had, they've taken care of right away. And he's real happy there. It's a spacious house with a lot of windows, and if he can't get outside, which he likes to do, he wants to see outside. And he's been on several trips. So they've brought him to 2 family reunions, and Also, we had a birthday party at my house, which they brought him and took care of him there. And a good time was had by all. So and he's so convenient. He's less than 6 miles from my house. And also my bank and grocery store is right nearby, and I don't have to get on a dangerous 2-lane road like if I have to go to Spalding County. That's what I'll be, on a winding 2-lane road. But now I just hop on the expressway and can be over there in less than 10 minutes.
You got 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Well, I guess I've said enough. I guess y'all know where I'm coming from.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2 seconds.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? We have 2 seconds. Okay. All right. No one coming up. I would like to open up the floor for anyone speaking in opposition of this case. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Board. My name is George Hover. I'm the president of Simpson Mill Homeowners Association. I live at 985 Fieldview Drive in McDonough in the subdivision. While I respect the rights of the clients of this personal care home, it kind of came as a surprise to us that we had someone running a business in our neighborhood where our covenants prohibited. The homeowner actually lives in Florida. And he rents the property, and it's my understanding that the business owner is a renter of the home. I represent the 514 members of our association. We have 514 homes in our subdivision. Even though the properties are on half acre, we're still fairly densely packed. We've gotten some complaints. Basically, all homeowners get, for maintenance of the yards and stuff. So that our main concern is the fact that there's no one there on a full-time basis to maintain the property, so that we have someone that's responsible. When we send out letters, we have to send them to the property owner, who, as I mentioned before, is in Florida. The renter will get it also, but it goes to the property address, and if there's not a full-time person there, I'm not sure who will address those. If approved, this also sets a precedence. We don't, with over 500 homes, we don't want people to come in, buy a property, and then rent it out to a business and then leave the state. The property owner in this case lives in Florida. I don't know if he is concerned with the property values, which the people that have complained to us are concerned that because of the maintenance of the property at times, you can tell that it is it's not a regular home because of a lot of trash that gets put out on trash days, and a lot of vehicles that go in and out of the property and that are parked at the property. So people have concerns about that. So that's all I have at this point. Although I will notice or mention that we've already had one damaging thing to our association. You can see the huge warehouse in our backyard right there that was put in through another zoning, what we consider a snafu. I'm sure it was programmed, but that for the neighbors that live there get to hear the trucks backing up, beeping. It's a concern that we've had, not related to this, unfortunately. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to this case?
Good evening, Board. My name is Trent Timmons. I live at 1628 Zachary's Way in Simpsons Mill Plantation. A lot of the things George has already covered. I'd like to go over some of the things that I also have learned this evening. Originally, from my understanding, when the original business license was applied for, the business owner was going to be residing in the home. Is that correct? I believe that's what was stated. So they've already operated under false pretenses. I'm wondering, are they going to operate under false pretenses some more. If that happens, I know that the way our the property value is assessed is across the board, but when somebody sells their house and somebody comes in to buy it, they're not going to look at what the property value is assessed. They're going to look at comps, and so that's another concern. There was a question about fences. I'm on the architectural review board for our subdivision, and our fences are allowed to be from the back edge of the home, but not forward. In the event that some of the clients may be able to get out, I've driven by the facility several times. There are ramps. I'm concerned about the other children in the neighborhood. If they see a person with disabilities, you know how children are a lot of times, are scared and so forth. Another question was, they have two other facilities in Bibb County. Why would that not be an option? I'm just throwing that out there. I know that's not your area. And if what the attorney was saying, that they have strict oversight on these homes, how come it wasn't noticed that the business owner was not living at the facility? That doesn't sound like very strict to me. That's about all I have. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. How much time do we have left?
4:35.
Oh, we have, is it 4 seconds? 4 minutes left for anyone else that wants to speak in opposition of the case. All right, I don't see anyone coming forward. At this time, we'd like the applicant to please come forward. Do any of the board members have any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Tony?
Is this yard fenced at this location?
No, sir.
No portion whatsoever is fenced?
There's no fence.
The rear yard's not fenced or anything?
No, sir. It's a corner lot. It's not fenced.
I have a question for staff. I just kind of trying to get my head around, because I heard something about nursing care. What's allowed and not allowed. Is that part of this situation as far as nursing care? That's why the people that are coming into the home, it's just so that someone will be in the home. And I guess you would answer that question. But then there was something mentioned about nursing care. There can't be any nursing care. How do we differentiate between that and someone staying, just being at the home?
Based on the information that I believe you're referring to is what I read, that was based out of section 4.0319 that says care homes cannot provide nursing or other medical or nursing care. I'd have to let Ms. Miller give details as to what is being provided at this location, because I'm unaware.
Could you just provide that for record so we'll know exactly when you have staff that go in, what type of care that they're administering to the residents?
The staff is there to assist with the bathing, the dressing, the meal preparation, and those type of things. They're there to help care for the individual that are residing there.
Okay, and are they considered state employees, or they're employees of your company?
They're employees of my company.
And what's the name of your company?
Southern Community Living.
So when you rented the property, did you rent it under the Southern, what was the name of the company?
Southern Community Living.
No,
the landlord, he knew what my intentions were, but we didn't do the lease under Southern Community Living. It's under my name, but he knew, and I also submitted the letter from him stating he's aware, and Planning and Zoning does have that letter. He is aware of what's going on. That was the whole purpose of the property.
So he leased it to you knowing
yes.
that you had this business
yes.
that you were going to conduct. Okay, and
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure I clarify what Ms. Miller is stating. when you provided the information from your landlord, it was as part of your requirement for submitting this application. So at the beginning, the original contract and lease agreement that we received was just your agreement to rent that home for you to reside there. And then when you submitted the conditional use application, we required that you provide something from the owner indicating that he was aware that you were applying for this use, correct? The letter from the property owner was not originally submitted when you went through the process from the beginning, when you submitted your business license.
Right, it wasn't required.
So the letter from the property owner that you're making reference to, I just want the board to know that that letter is part of our submittal process for the application. Because you didn't own the property, we required that the property owner give us something in writing indicating that he was aware that you were applying for the conditional use, not from the original business license.
Okay, but
I'm just saying, is that correct? When you applied for the original business license, did the property owner provide a letter to planning staff and the business license office indicating that you could operate a personal care home?
No one asked for that.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Thank you.
No.
So there's not, so now that's confusing me, and I apologize. So does the owner know that?
Right. What I wanted to do is provide clarification because Ms. Miller indicated that the property owner was aware that she was applying or that she was running a personal care home from that location, and that information was provided to planning staff. That is true because that is a requirement of the conditional use application. That's not a factual statement as far as when she originally submitted her business license to the business license office. There was no confirmation or anything from the property owner at that time. What we had in our files was a lease agreement to rent the property for a single family use for Felicia Miller. And I just wanted to clarify that the letter from the property owner came as a result of us having her apply for the conditional use. That was not something that was accompanying that business license at the beginning.
Okay. And the 7 staff members, did they rotate just at this home in Henry County or all the other facilities that you may own?
No, just in Henry County.
Just in Henry County.
Yes,
So they're staff. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't know if they were going, to do different counties or not. So
no, that was just for that home.
Okay. And who takes care of the property as far as taking out the trash and making sure that the property is mowed and is cleaned and that sort of thing?
We are responsible, meaning myself and my husband. We make sure that the yards and all that are taken care of. As far as the trash being taken out during trash day, that is part of staff. That's part of them making sure that, the trash is taken out during that time.
And we also have a team leader that's responsible for that home. He oversees the staffing and things of that nature.
Have you ever had any complaints from any of the residents' relatives or anything detrimental happen to any of those folks that have been in your care, where maybe 911 had to be called or anything like that?
Well, yes, because one of the individuals does have a feeding tube, and her tube, this is how we got here, her tube came out, and as part of making sure that she seek the medical attention that she needed so that it wouldn't close up and they would have to actually cause her to have surgery, that had occurred, and actually the EMT is the one that made the complaint. Because he was having a bad day, he didn't feel like that was an emergency call. And so that's how we ended here. And he made a complaint to, I think, code enforcement or someone, and that's how the code enforcement as well as the fire department came out. When I initially applied for this, I applied for a group home, because that's what a CLA, that's what all my other homes are. And that's what I put on the application. But I received a personal care home permit. And then when they came out, that's how we got to the point that the complaint. So.
Was that the McGarity resident or was that someone else? Because there's 3 people.
These are the same individuals that have always been there.
Well, okay, so who the feeding tube?
Oh, it's another individual, not Mr. McGarity.
Okay. That's all the questions that I have. Okay, Mr. Head.
When you all originally rented this property, were you aware of them having a covenant for the community?
No, sir. That's the land, like I said, the landlord, Mr. Natel, knew in the beginning what the plans were with me being there or renting the property. So he never told me that that was not something we could do.
Mr. Richter?
Is this home, is it certified or licensed, through the state of Georgia? I think it's through the Department of Community Affairs, because I think that the legislature recently passed some legislation that all homes had to be licensed and inspected on a regular basis by the state.
Correct. It's licensed by healthcare facility regulations, and it's also certified by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disability. And we have current license for both. We are, licensed by the state and the department. And we also have, with HFR, inspectors that come out unannounced. And also there are what they call support coordinators that come out to the home unannounced any time of the day to make sure that individuals are taken care of as well, that do not work for my agency.
Okay, these are the state employees that come out?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had any violations?
No, ma'am.
And we also have an internal audit team that goes out and inspects and makes sure that everything is according to the guidelines.
Okay, Mr.
Just
Tony.
another comment. Regardless of what happens here tonight, the homeowners association still has civil issues that they can deal with outside this board here.
We just learned that Saturday.
And Mr. Nelson, I apologize.
Yeah. Now, how long did you originally live at the property?
I lived there for about 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
We've been there since 2011.
Okay, so when you originally purchased the license, were you aware that the requirement required that you actually live on the property to maintain a personal care?
I didn't understand that I had to actually live, that I could not have employees and that I actually had to live there. But I have 24-hour, I have 2 24-hour people that are there to make sure, because one person cannot take care of the needs of these individuals. So it requires more than just one person to be there. When I was issued the license from the county, I thought it was for 4 individuals, not that it included 3 and myself.
Okay, and that's what I was about to ask. How many people are you actually presently keeping now?
It's only 3 individuals, just 3.
3. So you never kept 4, or?
No, it's only 3.
Is there a restriction from the county regarding the amount of employees that are allowed for non-home?
For a non-home occupation, no. For a home occupation, yes.
Okay. So home occupation is one.
Home occupations allow none unless you're an RA over 2 acres, and then you're allowed to have 2.
Okay. So it's unrestricted for that.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I have one question for Jeremy. Jeremy, now, if she moved back into the home, she can maintain that property with 3 people there?
Yes, based on the way the code is written today, you can have a home occupation personal care home in any residential zoning district for up to 3 clients. So if Ms. Miller did reside at this location and it was her primary residence, then she could have up to 3 clients at that location.
Okay. Did the board have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Am I allowed to do a rebuttal to the
No, you're not. We're finished. Thank you. Okay, we need to call the case.
C-1307, William Natel of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 1669 Bennett Drive, land lot 209 of the 6th District. The request is for a non-home occupation personal care home, and the property is located in District 2.
I would like to add a condition, if I could, that they fence in the rear the rear yard. Would that be possible to do that?
Do we need that in a motion? Are you shaking your head? Do we need that? No. Does he need, you would, when you make a motion, you would need to add that condition. So, Mr. Tony, if you're making a motion, I would like for you to put that in the form of a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the request based on the staff's recommendations with the addition of a condition to fence the rear yard with privacy fence.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like for the record that it be staff recommendation actually be read into the motion.
The change?
Yes, number 3.
Okay. Staff, could you please read the change to your
Change to proposed
proposed.
condition number 3.
Yes.
Condition number 3 will read, there shall be no more than one resident permitted as required, as requested by the Atlanta Legal Aid Society in their letter dated April 9th, 2013. Said letter shall be made part of the public record.
And Mr. Tony, you've asked for a privacy fence, and if we put what type of fence and it goes against a covenant of the neighborhood, that might not be something that might be acceptable. And we can ask the staff at this time, should we just say fence or should we say privacy fence? I mean,
you could probably just add a statement that a privacy fence shall be required unless it violates covenant regulations or covenants that are currently in place. But then maybe not. No, just say fence because we don't regulate covenants. So let's just go back to fence.
So I need the speaker to agree to amend the motion. Do you agree that we to amend the motion?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to amend your motion?
I amend my motion.
To just say fence instead of privacy fence?
For the privacy fence or an acceptable fence, whatever is the covenant.
Acceptable fence. I just want to make sure, Sherry, that we have conducted that part of the business in the right procedure. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. Any opposed? There's none opposed. Okay, motion carried. We'll call the next case, please.
Conditional use 1310, Zachary J. Marler of Jonesboro, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 395 through 401 McDonough Parkway, land lot 157 of the 7th District. The request is for a sports and recreational facility. The request is in District 1, presented by Sherry Hobson Matthews.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. I'll try to get through this without choking up here. But the request before you this evening is for a conditional use to allow for a CrossFit health and fitness gymnasium in an M1 zoning district. As you all are aware, this is something that is required per the Unified Land Development Code for any sports and recreational establishment. If you all will recall, about 2 or 3 months ago, we had a conditional use in here for a church at the same location. The church has since relocated from that facility, and the CrossFit facility is looking to go in that building. This property is part of an 80-acre tract of land that was rezoned for commercial and industrial uses. Based on staff's assessment of the property, it appears that everything will be in line for them to operate from the location. We don't foresee any issues with parking, but inasmuch we have added a condition that all parking necessary for this property be located outside of the McDonough Parkway right-of-way. That's just to ensure that we don't have cars parking along that right-of-way, causing any type of traffic hazards. Again, planning staff has recommended approval of the request with 3 conditions. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, do any of the board members have questions for the staff at this time? Okay, I would like to ask the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Board. My name is Zachary Jonathan Marler. My address, my personal address is 3207 South Bay Drive, Jonesboro, Georgia, 30236.
Okay, do you have anything that you would like to add to the staff comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Yes.
Mr. Head.
How many of these facilities do you have?
Just one.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated. At this time, we're allowing 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. If you want to stand by Sherry as she sneezes. That's okay. Okay, I don't see anybody coming up. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition of this case? Okay, would the applicant please come back up? Do any board members have anything for staff or the applicant at this time before we call the case? Okay, you may be seated. You can please call the case.
CU 1310, Zachary J. Marler of Jonesboro, Georgia, request a conditional use for property located at 395 through 401 McDonough Parkway, land lot 157 of the 7th District. The request is for a sports and recreational facility, Commission District 1.
I would like to make a motion that this be approved based upon the staff recommendation.
Do I have a motion by Mr. Head? I have a second by Mr. Babb. All those any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Will you please call the next case?
CU 1311, Brenda Diaz of Locust Grove, Georgia, request a conditional use for property located at 342 Trestle Road, land lot 177 of the 2nd District. The request is for a non-commercial kennel for up to 10 adult domestic pets. Commission District 1. Report is presented by Sherry Hobson-Matthews.
Good evening again, Board. As Jeremy has indicated, the request before you this evening is for a non-commercial kennel on a 4.99 plus or minus acre tract of land located off of Trestle Road. The property is located outside of a subdivision, zoned RA, and sits about 450 feet off of Trestle Road, so not visible at all. The applicant is seeking permission to allow her to continue raising her 10 adult Yorkie Terriers. The applicant has indicated that the dogs will not be used for breeding purposes, and the male dog that is currently there is neutered. The dogs are personal pets and provide medical benefits for her husband, who is battling dementia and Alzheimer's. Planning staff has reviewed the request. We have not had any phone calls or complaints regarding the conditional use request, and has recommended approval of the request with 2 conditions. I didn't note in the work session that we just want to take 2 words out of the 2 conditions where we have stated no supplemental standards. Staff would just like to replace that with no zoning conditions. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any of the board members have any questions for staff? Okay, at this time, we'll allow the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Brenda Diaz. I'm the property owner at 342 Trestle Road, Locust Grove, Georgia.
Okay, do you have anything to add to staff comments?
Well, I just wanted to tell the courts and you, Your Honor, that I've always had lots of Yorkies. I don't breed them. I just have them for pets. My husband and I have always had lots of little dogs. I don't breed them, you know. He's had dementia and Alzheimer's for 7 years. He's a 35-year retired vet with 5 Purple Hearts. And he hasn't walked or talked in 7 years. And I'm his sole caretaker other than my son that lives with me that helps me take care of him. And then the lady that's with me is his nurse. as well as his VA doctors and his neurologist that he goes to, says that pet therapy is the best thing for dementia patients. And I have pictures if the court wants to see them, where he holds all of his dogs. They're always in his lap, sleeping with him. You know, they're always up to date on their shots. Like I said, at one time I had a male, but I don't have a male any longer. But when I did, you know, I mean, he just loves them. You know, they're our children that we don't have. We've been together since 1994, and I mean, they're just all we have. So, I mean, I hope that this isn't a problem. As a matter of fact, I only have one neighbor. I have 5 acres, and I have one neighbor, and he doesn't have a problem with them. And I haven't had any other complaints about any other neighbors. So I hope that I'm able to keep them, because it would be a great loss to both of us if we had to not have them anymore.
Okay, thank you. Do either board members have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Tony?
How did we end up here tonight?
How did we end up here? Well, code enforcement showed up at my house one day, and then animal control showed up behind him and said that they had an anonymous call that I had 20 animals. But I think the call, I have a daughter that's bipolar and schizophrenic, and we just moved our new house in Locust Grove. We moved from Hampton to Locust Grove in May, and I ordered her off my property. And I'm pretty sure that that's who called, because when I went to animal control and I said, who in the world would report my animals? They don't bother anybody. They stay inside, they go out to use the bathroom, and they come right back in. They don't bite, they're not aggressive, they're not mean. And I said, can you tell me who called? And they said the call was anonymous. They said, but Ms. Diaz, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who called us. You should already know that. So, I mean, I just assumed it was her, because I don't have any enemies anywhere. She's in a mental hospital as we speak, because she refuses to take her medication. And
How many dogs were there when animal control came?
how many were there? The same ones I have today, 8.
Oh, okay.
And as a matter of fact, they went in the backyard, because I had 4 of them in the backyard at the time. And because I have a small fenced-in area. And he went around there and he says, I don't see a problem. He said, you can see that they're very well taken care of. They're fat as little pigs. And he said, I said, they are. I said, they're all well fed. They're taken care of. They have their shots. I said, I've seen people that don't take care of dogs. I've walked in animal control before and just walked through the kennels with friends that were looking for animals. And I see some in there that are so pitiful that look like they haven't eaten a day in their life. But, of course, as you can see, none of mine are all healthy. And everybody that comes in my house loves them. And they brag on them and how sweet they are and how well-mannered and how clean they are. And so that's why I'm here, because somebody made the complaint. And the code enforcement officer, he told me, he said, this is what you got to do to keep your dogs. He said, because in our code enforcement book, it shows that you can have 4. And I said, well, now how am I going to pick and choose the 4 that I want to get rid of? I don't want to get rid of any of them. And he says, well, this is what you got to do. He said, you got to have your 5 acres surveyed. I mean, I'm on a fixed income of Social Security. My husband gets retirement in Social Security, but I had to have my whole 5 acres surveyed, which was $1,500. Had to get a letter from the water department, which was $200. A letter from environmental health. Then I had to do my conditional use application and my letter of intent, and then my application, of course, to zoning, which was $525. But, I mean, I'll do anything to keep my animals. I don't care how much it costs. I'll do anything. Whatever pleases the courts.
For the record, I would just like to thank your husband for his service to our country. He fought for your right to be able to have some dogs in your house, I do believe. And I'm sorry that you had to go through all that, but, you know, we have to have things that protect the neighbors and other residents and those sort of things. And
right.
We've had abuse, so you can understand that, but I appreciate all the efforts that you've gone to do the right thing, and that's why you're here. And just for the record, we're citizens just like you are. I'm not a judge. These are not jurors, so we're citizens that's appointed by the commissioners, but we're here to hear your case and you know, and abide by what the code says and in any conditions that, that we're going to allow. So do anybody have any questions for the applicant or staff? My question was, were you allowed when the code enforcement came? Were you allowed to go ahead and keep your dogs, or did they take?
Code enforcement, he gave me a citation, and he came back to my house 10 days later, and I showed him all my paperwork that I had submitted to zoning, and he said, "Well, when will your case be held?" And I told him on September the 12th. Of course, he retired. Mr. Cochran retired before September 12th. And he said, "Well, there'll be a new zoning person," but he said, "As long as you've taken care of everything that I asked you to do, then that's all that matters."
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant or staff at this time? All right, you may be seated. Thank you. At this time, we're going to ask if anyone has any comments. No opposition. In favor. I couldn't think of it. In favor of this case. I was going to say approval, and I was like, no, we're not there yet. In favor of this case? Okay. And would anybody like to come up in opposition of this case? Okay, would the applicant please come back to the podium? It's just a formality.
That's okay.
We just want you to get your exercise, that's it.
That's okay.
Do any of the board members have any other comments or questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if we can call the case.
1311, Brenda Diaz of Locust Grove, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 342 Trestle Road, land lot 177 of the 2nd District. The request is for a non-commercial kennel for up to 10 adult domestic pets. Commission District 1.
I'd like to make a motion this be approved based upon the staff recommendation.
We have a motion by Mr. Head.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Nelson. All those in favor? Oh, we need discussion, excuse me. Okay, all those in favor? All the motion carried unanimously. Okay. At this time, we would like to allow 10 minutes for public comment. So if anyone would like to come up to address the board, we will allow that at this time. And since I don't see anybody rushing up to say anything to us, I'm going to say I need a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Okay. Let's go home. Thank you.